So I hope everyone enjoyed their lunch. This will be like the final time you'll get to see me on stage. I'm sure a lot of you are pleased about that. I'm joined by Carlo Pepe, founder at Koshima. Koshima are an AI consulting and enabling company. Under scrutiny what I say here. I think the enablement bit is really what we're going to look at now, and that enablement is about how you upskill employees with AI tools. Again, based here in Dubai Silicon Oasis, they specialize in guiding a wide variety of firms, I think, and government, I think, through difficult journey of rolling out AI successfully. So throughout the whole journey, you're there with companies. So Carlo's going to share his insights on how to best launch AI productivity tools across the company and upskill those employees. So Carlo, firstly, can you explain what workplace productivity tools actually are and why companies need them?
Yes, so AI productivity tools are tools that are used by primarily white-collar workers to speed up, enhance, make more efficient the workflows that they do. Let me put that in real English,
okay, yeah,
because that's gibberish that everyone talks. So if you are in human resources, you can use tools like ChatGPT that everyone does, or Microsoft Copilot 365 to identify the right applicants through the thousands of resumes using these tools in a very fast and efficient and non-biased way, rather than going through them individually. Or if you are in a legal team, you can use these tools to help you identify the risks, maybe for clause changes that a customer has requested. So it's all about the work that individuals are doing, and AI productivity tools are tools which help increase the productivity levels of people.
And is there people in the audience that are sort of using these tools sort of day to day? Do you have a show of hands in the office?
Well, hands up if you use Claude, Grok, Microsoft Copilot 365, ChatGPT. So put your hands up if you use that. Now keep them up if you use them on a monthly basis. Okay, keep them up still if you use them on a weekly basis. Nice. Keep them up still if you use them on a daily basis. Okay, now keep your hands up if you pay for those tools or your business pays for them. Nice. Cool. This is great because people are going to be able to relate to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So these tools, use them in home, in your personal life, or use them at work, right? You're probably doing a mixture of the two. Hopefully you're doing it for everything. That's worthwhile using them for. However, no one's ever really had a formal introduction to these tools. They've just been downloaded and you started using it, trial and error. And so topic today, upskilling at scale, is about enabling people with the right use of these tools so they can use them effectively at work, but on mass scale, right? So we're talking like big organizations.
So is this globally, like the adoption of this, sort of where is the market on this and kind of where is Dubai within that?
Globally, adoption is fairly low. I come with 1999 I first started in tech. And when I first came to the Middle East in 2017, I worked for a cloud company. And cloud was brand new here. But I'd been consulting on it for years in Europe. So my perception was, wow, the region's quite far behind in terms of tech. However, AI has kind of been a leveler because it's all generative AI has come recently. AI is old, right? 1953, it's been around. But generative AI is new. So generative AI has been a leveler globally for all regions. And when we set up the consultancy, I believed that an adoption problem was here in the Middle East rather than globally. But actually, you go to the US, you go to Europe, you go to Asia Pacific a bit less, but adoption is quite low. Tools like Microsoft Copilot 365, which is an assistant inside Microsoft Office, in Word, PowerPoint, Excel. These are being used, but not much. It's quite low even globally.
We're pretty good here by the show of hands that we got then.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually. Can you guys put your hands up again if your business pays for these tools for you to use? Now that is really good. And keep those hands up if you've been given training that you think is effective. Yeah, see now, and this is the challenge.
Okay. So, I guess what would that training be then that they should be receiving, and what format should they be getting that in?
So I'm massively passionate on this. I don't believe that training people on using a tool is worthwhile. Because when you're trained how to use a tool, you're then left scratching your head as to how you use it in your daily tasks. So, for instance, and this is a challenge for the big companies, right? Let's take Microsoft Copilot 365. It's an insanely powerful tool. It's an assistant that works in Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Teams, Outlook. And then a bit like the all-seeing eye in The Lord of the Rings, there's this Copilot that's like one Copilot to rule them all and goes across all of them. But Microsoft, as a global vendor, they can't put into their business model the level of customization that individuals really need to teach them how to use these tools effectively. It just doesn't work.
And is that at not just at a company, is that at a role-specific level?
Yeah, so training on the tool doesn't work. Training how to do your job, how to do your tasks, your activities, using the tool makes all the difference. So for instance, if you've got a sales team and you're doing some training, AI training. I won't pick on Microsoft. I love Copilot, it's great. If you're training them on how to use ChatGPT, here you go, here's a 3-day course. This is ChatGPT, this is how you prompt, this is Canvas, this is projects. And you teach them the tool, they then have to figure out how they use that tool in their day-to-day. If you analyze the tasks, the activities that the individuals are doing, the sales teams are doing, they're cold calling people, cool. Okay, so in order to cold call someone, you need to do some research. And you need to have in your mind what you're going to say to these people, how you're going to make that cold call resonate. So as an organization, you should take that as an exercise and teach your sales team how to do that exercise, do the research, put a contextualized script together to make your cold call more effectively using ChatGPT. Then they can go to their desk and guess what? They can do that straight away. They don't have to just, how do I do this now? So it's all about contextualized training.
They're looking at like sort of an order of key tasks that a team has to do.
Exactly. Identify the tasks and then show the team how to do the tasks using the tool.
So so you do this a lot. So what works well and what doesn't? What should they do and what should they avoid?
So if you're a small organization, when you're rolling out these tools, generative AI is all about confidence. If you've got 10 people in a team and you're giving these 10 people access to these tools, you want that confidence and that positivity to run through the organization. Well, these guys, they're on a pilot. They're rocking it, they're working really quick. They've enhanced themselves, they're making faster deals, they're more successful in their cold calls, they are able to respond to legal queries quicker, human resources are able to give the right information in a much shorter space of time. That then creates this FOMO within the organization, and people then start wanting to be using these tools. So the thing to do in any organization, and you scale, large or small, but it's all relative, you want to have a pilot with a team who are forward-thinking.
And how do you work out who those people are then?
You can take a very logical approach. I mean, so I'll tell you a bit about how we go through our enablement process. So we get a digital questionnaire out to all the participants who are going to come on our enablement. and we ask them about 15 questions. They're fairly straightforward. We don't want to be, doesn't need to be like a heavy exercise. There we're looking at who are you, what's your role, what are your KPIs, where are you having challenges in your day-to-day? Do you use artificial intelligence at all, at home? What do you use it for? What do you know about AI? So there's about, it's almost about 20 questions, depends on the function that we're working with. But what we're doing is we're looking to build a profile of them as an individual, that individual at work, and where they think AI can help, and maybe where they think AI can't help. So then we can build a picture.
And also, by the sounds of it, maybe looking for a bit of AI curiosity as well. Maybe
Yeah,
it's a bit more likely to.
Absolutely, absolutely. If someone's responding on that questionnaire, and I don't use any tools, actually, I don't really, I'm a bit scared, that isn't the right person to be in a pilot. They're the right people to be involved in what we call the AI Council, which we'll come on to later. But they're not the right people for a pilot.
That's quite an easy thing to do then for a company, is just a quick questionnaire just to identify those things.
It's the adoption of AI is not rocket science. You just need to apply logic. So, most people here will have a Microsoft 365 account. On Microsoft 365, you've got access to something called Microsoft Forms. Microsoft Forms is a digital questionnaire. Get these questions written out, provide a QR code to your team or a link, email them a link, ask them to fill it out. The trick then is in analyzing that data and then identifying the right people.
And once you've got that group of people, say we're looking at a pilot, what are some sort of best practices for sort of running a pilot with that, in terms of how do you gather feedback, like use, and put that to use? It's a good way of doing that.
So the feedback bit we'll come to, but first what you want to do is you want to identify the right individuals, the right mindset, and you need to identify those people who have also highly repetitive office-based tasks. Mm-hmm. So human resources is usually the first place that any organization goes to for AI, because HR is seen as that internal function where, if you get something doesn't work quite as right, then they can just default to what they're doing, and you're not doing any harm because you're not outwardly projecting this to customers. So HR is usually the first part. But with individuals, you're looking for repetitive office-based tasks. Someone who's doing lots of research, someone who's creating lots of presentations, someone who's creating a lot of reports, someone who is drafting a lot of documents. So you could have, salespeople are great for this because they're constantly drafting proposals. They're constantly researching their customers. HR is a good one because they're constantly referring back to policies. Legal's another good one because they're constantly on Word.
So does this these tools become more relevant the larger the organization you are, because I guess people have narrower sort of roles?
Yes and no. So it's more obvious when you've got very segregated roles. So if you're an organization of 3,000 people and you've got 75 people in sales, they're just doing sales. If you've got a small to medium, a very small business, let's say you've got 6 people, these 6 people are wearing various different hats. So it's a bit more difficult to provide training and enablement to those people because you can't be so specific in terms of what you're teaching them or how you're teaching them to use a tool. But actually, the benefits are relative. If you're a 6-person organization and you can work 5 times more efficiently.
Just it takes a bit more time to upskill them.
No, it doesn't take a lot more time, but you're just less focused. So like for instance, my organization, we're only a few people. When we started using Microsoft Copilot 365, within 2 weeks, we were saving an hour and a half per person per day. That's 7.5 hours. That's an extra day a week we were gaining through the use of this. And we're a small organization wearing many hats. So I could be preparing for a talk like this. I could be out having meetings, could be putting proposals together, could be putting hands-on exercises together. We use AI for everything. Now, just because we don't have our segregated roles doesn't mean it's not as effective. You could argue it's more effective. But in terms of enabling and upskilling the workforce, it's a lot more straightforward to do it when you've got very segregated roles, yeah.
And what sort of early wins would you look for that would help with the rollout of
Early wins?
Yeah.
Early wins, if within about 2 weeks of a proper enablement program, every person who's been on that should be saving an hour a day. And that hour a day is then reinvested into the more valuable tasks. That hour a day then for salespeople would then translate into more customer time. Less time behind the desk, more time in front of a customer. That hour a day with HR people would be spent less time fielding questions and responding, and more time looking at enhancing their HR practice. So the quick win is being able to do those repetitive. I can blend what we do in our consulting and in our enablement practices. So we have something called the Koshima time framework, T-I-M-E. And what we do is we analyze everything that AI is doing under 4 lenses. So one is time. How much time is taken in a process? How much time is saved after the use of these tools? Second one is investment of resources. So if you need 5 colleagues to get their task done, and you're able to reduce the amount of colleagues that you need to do a task, or your reliance on software, etc., the resources, that's another lens that we look at. M is money. So if something is generating revenue or if something's a cost center, we're using a software tool, software as a service, and you pay on the use of that. If you're able to use that less, you're reducing your costs. And then the last one is experiences, E. Mm-hmm. And experience is all about improving experiences of internal and external customers. So that's your colleagues or that's your customers.
What's a good way of measuring that?
A good way of measuring that is in the time. So all of these are interlinked, right? So if individuals drag their heels through processes, through tasks they need to do, they are not getting more stuff done on their to-do list, essentially. If they're motivated, then they're able to work quicker, they can get through their tasks. When you look at external, when you look at customers, happy customers spend more. You can validate that in terms of a definition by their acceptance to more sales calls, to meetings, to different ideas. And this isn't just done overnight, right? You need to enhance that experience for customers and get that consistently over time. And then you will see that the sentiment towards you as an organization will change. Their acceptance to events, their acceptance to customer review meetings, they're responding to products or sales or services suggestions that you might have. So you get this back as a
There's an overall sort of like employee happiness.
Yeah, internally and externally. You've got 2 sorts of customers, right? Also partners, like if you're an organization who works with many partners and you're going through a regular cadence of partner review meetings, then you should see that sentiment is increasing in terms of its positivity.
What sort of companies are these tools best suited to, and are there any where it's not really that well suited?
If you're a white-collar worker and you're spending most of your time in Microsoft Office, then Microsoft Copilot 365 is perfect for you. Similarly with G Suite, if you're always in Google Docs, Gmail, that sort of thing, these tools are absolutely perfect for you because they are assistants inside that, right? If you're a security patrol person for TransGuard, then ChatGPT could be incredible for you. because you could create a custom GPT that will record notes for observations of a security patrol or an inspection report for engineers. And you would literally be able to talk into this tool. It would then take the information that it needs, that it's been configured to receive, and then spit out a report. So you're then not spending loads of manual time writing a report. So who's it good for? It's good for anyone who has processes that they do often. For
Sounds
people,
like any sort of office role.
Yeah,
It's hard to think of how it couldn't help.
and this is part of the problem, right? So AI can be used everywhere. Should it be used everywhere? No, definitely not. There was one of the sessions earlier I spoke about use cases. I think there was a question that said, how do you get management to buy in to some of the use cases that you might put forward? Well, actually, it's exactly the same it's the same concept as validating which people should use AI and for what processes. You need to do a proper needs analysis, look at those repetitive tasks, analyze them over those four currencies: time, investment of resources, money, experiences. And then you're able to put a definition as to the business problem you're solving and the business value you're generating from using AI to do this. Once you've got that written down, you can translate that into return of investment, and you've now got business value as well as a revenue metric, a money metric, to validate which processes should we look at for which people using which tools. Is this anything that you guys have conversations internally? Do any of you have conversations internally around this level of detail as to how to use AI and where to use it? See a few nods. A few nods. Is this something that is new to you and maybe is interesting and you can take back into the business? Yeah, a few nods and a few hands up. Quite a few hands up.
Is there what's the best example you've seen of a company sort of successfully deploying these tools, and what did they do that was that got it right?
So, Free Zone Authority in the UAE, and they had a layered approach. So, number one, a load of internal marketing. They were investing in Microsoft Copilot 365, and they got their marketing team to do internal marketing. They had this internal marketing for 6 weeks. Over those 6 weeks, they then went through a very deliberate process to identify the right people mindset-wise, as well as the right people with the right processes. Almost setting themselves up for success. So they made it really easy for themselves. So they then go through proper hands-on enablement. So they identify the goals, objectives, challenges, and opportunities of these individuals in terms of their work, created hands-on exercises and taught them how to do their exercises using the tools. But the really clever thing that they did, in my view, was they put in place what we call an AI council. So an AI council should be a two-layered approach. What you have senior leadership who meet on a monthly or a quarterly basis.
Would that be a selection of that leadership, or would you try to go for all?
You would have the person right at the top, so chief executive officer or owner of the business. In this case, it was a CEO. And then heads of functions, heads of departments.
Try to get a representation across.
Yeah, representation across. They were meeting on a quarterly basis and basically sharing learnings and experiences. And then at a departmental level, these guys were meeting on a monthly basis. And what they're doing is they're sharing results, sharing challenges, sharing ideas. And this layered approach meant that if something was becoming a challenge, they were able to discuss it internally and share those learnings. They were able to share the positive outcomes from the enablement. And they continued with the internal marketing as well.
So they were trying to solve at that first level as well as much as they could, or was it all escalated?
This is not really an escalation. This is all about spreading the joy and spreading the excitement. and spreading the positivity and making everyone aware of actually what doesn't work as well. You know, there were, and we weren't, Koshima was not involved in this. This is a customer that we went to because we heard that they'd done something particularly well, wanted to see if we could get some learnings from them. This is not an escalation. This is all about a collaborative effort. We're all in it together. AI is something that everyone will be embracing, whether you like it or not, and this organization really embraced that and made sure that their experiences were shared amongst the organization.
Mark, is it possible we can do some audience questions? Because we know that there's a lot of people using this, and we've got an expert on stage, so it'd be good to see if anyone has any questions for Carlo.
Hi, I'm a software developer. So you spoke a lot about Copilot 365. I just use Copilot for VS Code for the most part, and I have to say it's nonsense. It's not something you should give to developers, and it just doesn't work properly. And in general, that's kind of my problem with AI. And when you spoke about scaling it, and normally what we see in a lot of code that I see and written by other developers or other people, it's just there's a similarity, and it's very obvious that it's written by AI. And it's very obvious, and I always see that sometimes I see that in marketing material as well. Like there is a similarity between what these two people are doing. And it's kind of, so my friend, he just came back from the USA, and he used to drive a Tesla when he was in USA, and now he's back to driving manually. And he always says that, I enjoy driving manually, now I can't do it because I have a different style of driving than the automatic driving. And driving is much more orthodox, and because we all drive on the same road. Things like software development, things like marketing, these are creative things, and they require some kind of human ingenuity and uniqueness to them that AI is kind of taken away by its own orthodoxy, because Grok says one thing, and it only does it in one way, and ChatGPT also does it in one way. So how do we bring back the creativity of the human being in this situation? And how do we tell people that there is a need for their creativity? Because I think people are just being lazy with AI.
It's a great question. So if you can tell that something's written by AI, then the person using AI is not using it properly. So if I would love a challenge, actually, to anonymously submit a bit of writing amongst other people and see if you can identify that I'm using AI. What happens is people are using these tools, and they're working with it to refine the output, to refine the email, the report, the marketing, copy, whatever. And then the last version that they've reworked with AI is the version that they submit, right? Do you agree with that? It's entirely the wrong approach. It's entirely the wrong approach. So during our training and enablements, we advocate strongly for the 80-20 rule. 80% you work collaboratively with AI to get whatever task you're doing done. Then the last 20% you dump AI, and you then have your own signature, your own creativity, your own flair on top of that, right? What that does is that gets rid of the whitewash AI that goes on top of everything. Number one. Number two, that can be quite time consuming, actually. Well, yes and no, right? So in my world, that's time consuming. Maybe if you're spending a lot of time working with AI, it's really quick, it's quicker than me writing. But if you're using things like ChatGPT, you can train ChatGPT to write in your style, to use your words, to not use the words that it wants to use. For instance, you will never, ever, ever see the word integration in anything that Koshima produces. I hate that word. I despise it. Also, as you can tell from my accent, I come from the UK. So I have a pet peeve that AI gives American English rather than British English.
As a communication person.
Which
drives
actually
me
I call
insane.
English rather than American because there's only one English. Sorry. So if you're just cutting and pasting what AI is giving you, then more fool you, really. What you should do is get to an endpoint and then dance all over it with your creative flair. But also learn how to use these tools and how to get the tools to write in your style. It's not difficult.
Very important point. As a communication specialist, I use it, and I was worried about. Actually, I think I might have passed your test there.
Really?
I use it for research and to get the ball rolling. I will never let a body of it go as a final product because it is exactly as the gentleman was implying. It's vanilla. What you're going to get is vanilla, and I think certainly we're working with clients where they want to communicate and stand out. I think you can't rely solely on that.
We've got a little bit of time. I'll give you guys a tip, right? So I saw a load of heads nodding, like, oh, can I get it to write in my style? So do this. Write 3 emails yourself, fairly decent length emails, but do it just yourself. Don't use ChatGPT, don't use any tool, just yourself. Or even better, get a pen and paper and write very clearly some content yourself. A page, 2 pages. Take a photo of it, or take a screenshot of the email that you've written. Upload it into ChatGPT. Ask it to analyze my writing style, my tone of voice, the words that I use, the words that I don't use, and give me a description. Then cut and paste that description and save it somewhere. And then whenever you're writing something, paste that back in and say, this is my writing style, only write in this style. It's not the way you should do it, but it's like a quick hack.
Useful hack, and I think a great one that I think everyone, certainly I'll be using that. Probably within half an hour of leaving the stage. Okay, I think that's pretty much all we have time for. Can we do some more questions? Does anyone else have any? Lady right at the front here. My mark.
You come next, okay.
Hello, my name is Tanya. I work for marketing. I work as a marketing communications manager. So I would like to ask about the use of data and the data privacy topic, because I think usually the hesitation comes from to use AI comes from a breach of privacy information of the company or the customer information. So for me, if of course, if this is I know how to use AI in a way that I don't sometimes necessarily put information about the company or like private information, names of the company or the people, but I use it in a smart way. But this is the one thing that I think companies need to understand, that there is a way around it that we can use to improve. But what's your say about like data privacy and breach of, for example,
It's a great question. I'm really glad you raised it, honestly. So there is the technical reality, and then what we should be doing as responsible employees. You would have seen that a lot of companies, OpenAI being one of them, had a lot of lawsuits against them in the US because of copyright of information. I think it was Washington Post was one of them who took OpenAI to court. And that's because these generative AI tools, what they do is they basically put a vacuum, a hoover, or I don't know what we call it these days anyway, a vacuum into the internet and just suck out the information, and that's the information that it learns and is trained on. And it's that's used to then create a response. Now, as individuals at work, you should never put confidential information, you should never upload that onto any of these tools. Unless your company has a policy that says you can. Now, if a company's using, if it's a Microsoft house, you use Microsoft Office and use Microsoft Copilot 365, one of the values of that is actually you can use your internal data. And that's protected by the Microsoft Enterprise Agreement. And that covers your emails. So your emails are up on the cloud, and the security or the privacy for that data is basically trust. Your company is trusting Microsoft that they're going to deliver on their promise that they're not going to use your data, right? So Microsoft Copilot 365, being part of Office 365, is covered under that. So uploading sensitive data should have already been a consideration of your business, and that shouldn't be, you shouldn't be scared to upload stuff, because that's just part of why you would use Microsoft Copilot 365. If you're using ChatGPT, then if you go to your accounts, you go to settings, you go to privacy, I think it is, the very first option is improve the model with my data. And you can turn that off. And that means that you are relying on OpenAI's promise to you that they're not going to use your data to improve their model. So there are ways around it, like you've said, but you need to be aware of these. As individuals, I mean, I don't have kids, but if I had kids, I wouldn't be putting loads of information on my kids, because I guess I'm a bit scared that something might happen. As a business, you need to understand that risk and put policies in place. But I will tell you this, Google Gemini, which is Google's generative AI, was actually trained on all the Gmail accounts within Google. That's pretty scary. That is pretty scary. So I guess short answer is, if you use any of these tools, go into the settings and turn data privacy on. 100% do that. Definitely speak internally and understand what appetite the business has for using these tools and how to use them.
I believe you have another question, gentleman over there.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for the insight. I have 3 questions, actually. First question is, within the business, I'm running a company and I have a department, legal, HR, finance, marketing, and sales. What is the best approach to roll out the Copilot? You talk about Copilot. I'm interested for that one. What's the best approach to roll out the Copilot within the departments till the last employee of the department? And what do you think, what is your experience, how long it will take if we talk about like the 50 employee of 5 department, per department 5 employees? How long it will take to roll out within the department, in considerations that they are using Microsoft Offices, they are also using the Power Platform, so-called build the processes and then all other stuff, AI hubs they have. So because they are digital companies, so we need to roll out all these things within the department. This is the first question. Second question regarding the Gen AI. If you can elaborate this Gen AI. We know that the Gen AI is like when we are putting information. So if I need the information, so the things within my company, within my organizations, within my data, I cannot get until I not give the information. So the Gen AI model, they will train our data, and next time if I ask, I'll get the result. So is that like some matured model will come from around the world where without giving my data, training my data, will give the business outcome which we require in my organizations? Second question. Third question, like data privacy. For example, like we are storing we have millions of data storing on AWS and then Azure and all. If data happens sometimes stolen, by someone, who will be the responsible for? Is it the company? Is it the Microsoft? Is it the who stole? I mean, what's the legal aspect of those data if stolen or protected, not by anyone?
So I'll tackle them in a different order than you gave them. So who's responsible? You are responsible. There is a commitment from Microsoft if you're using a Microsoft tool. There's a commitment from Google. There's a commitment from OpenAI. Whoever, there's a commitment from them if you're paying for these services. But you have to assume that it is the individual's responsibility as to how you're using those tools. You start there, then you stop any further problems, right? So you need to train, you need to educate your employees that they need to be mindful, and they need to be mindful of how they're using these tools, and they need to use these tools in accordance with the policies that you're giving them, right? So assume that it's the individual who's responsible. You're not going to go to Google and sue Google because a news article, I don't know, you were drafting a press release. You never actually released that press release. And somewhere it came out, I don't know, in Timbuktu on someone's Google account. You're not going to successfully sue them. So you need to just stop the thought process that it's anyone else's responsibility. So do it at the user. This is the best advice that you can follow internally. First one was, how do you go about enabling a 50-person company? Was that right?
Yeah, department to department, I think.
Department by department. Okay, so as we were saying in the beginning, what you want to do is you want to run a pilot, and you want to have the best chances of that pilot being successful to breed curiosity, to breed interest, to breed excitement, so that when you roll out past the pilot, people are mentally invested. People are not scared this is going to replace my job, or replace me or my job. They know now, because other departments or other colleagues have given this good feeling internally, actually I can nail my reports in a third of the time that I could before. I can qualify my prospects in 10% of the time. Actually, I now have time for a lunch break because I can get my tasks done. So you want to identify the right mindset people, and then you take one of two approaches. Either go into one department and go really deep into one department and get those guys using these tools well through a structured enablement. Or what you do is you get two people from each department so they can buddy up together, and you get a little bit in each department, two people in each department, and you go through this enablement with them. Those two approaches, they're both successful approaches, but do not give them tool training. Analyze their biggest time-consuming tasks, show them how to do those tasks using the tool. What was the second question?
The second one is the one I didn't quite understand. It was around generative AI, though, wasn't it?
Oh, generative AI. Look, generative AI is just the most recent generation of artificial intelligence. AI has been around. AI is actually first used by General Motors in the 60s. So this is not new. You've got machine learning, you've got deep learning, neural networks, and then you've got generative AI on top. So generative AI is artificial intelligence, which actually just does one thing. It just predicts. It makes a prediction. If it's generating an image for you, it's just predicting the next pixel. If it's generating text for you, it's predicting the next character, the next word, the next sentence, the next paragraph. It's just prediction engine. Think of it like this. Generative AI generates new content from having learnt from old content. That's what generative AI is.
I think that's all we have time for. So, Carlo, huge thanks for talking in very simple terms about something that's actually quite complex, and actually giving us some really good, certainly me as well, some really practical things that we can put into our daily work, I think. And considering obviously so many people using it as well, that was really encouraging to see. So thank you so much.
Thank you.